Welcome back to the Maryland Made podcast. Tim Bryson here, and we are very excited to kick off episode 5, which will be focused on alumni engagement. We have a very esteemed guest on today's episode, a Maryland alum, 1996. So it's a special year, special anniversary year for his graduation class. Without further ado, I want to introduce you all to Tyrone Brooks. Tyrone, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Tim. Great. Glad to be here with you. Really excited to be a part of this podcast with you. And you've been making such a great impact so far. And I'm glad to share a little bit about my story and my chances to have an opportunity to talk with the Maryland community.
Listen, we're glad you're here. We're super glad you're here. And I was thinking back on the way to work today, and I was like, me and Tyrone have been connected now for almost 2 years, which is like mind blowing to think about because I reached out to you on LinkedIn and you actually responded. And I was like, oh, snap. You remember that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And then didn't having a chance to come on campus and be there with you prior to COVID and have a chance to talk to some of the students back in the fall of, fall of 19. So
fall 19, yeah. Wow. Well, of course, this podcast wouldn't be anything without bringing on alum, right? Alum who have done great work within the community and honestly, just the world. But before we jump into anything, professional related, career related, we'd just love to learn more about your story, right? So hometown, maybe siblings, why you chose Maryland. So Tyrone, what's your story?
Yeah, Tim, good question. For me, I grew up in Glen Burnie, Maryland, right outside of Baltimore. For me as a kid growing up, watching Maryland athletics was something that was just ingrained in my family. Me and my dad used to sit and watch Maryland basketball games, watching Len Bias, Adrian Branch, during that era, watching individuals. And for me, Maryland became such a big part of, hey, I want to be a part of that one day in some way, somehow. And for me, as a kid, athletics was always important in my entire family. Myself and my brother, both playing in the backyard when I first started playing baseball and football, and then playing organized ball. And then, for baseball and just sports in general was always something that I knew I wanted to make it part of my life. And, for me, it's funny. I think back to the first time I went to my first Orioles game as a kid. I was a big Orioles fan. And my favorite player of all time to this day is still Eddie Murray, the Hall of Famer with the Orioles, first baseman. And, I think back to even my first experiences going to that ballpark, and some of that, just that one experience, the very beginning, it's resonated to the work I do now, because, coming into that ballpark and going into Memorial Stadium with my dad, my mom, and my father, with my mom, myself, and my brother, it just seeing individuals on the field that looked like me and seeing that representation, that meant so much to me. And and that's, I think, one thing that we're trying to continue to strive to do with as a league here at MLB is have kids be able to see themselves reflected out there on the field. And also what we're trying to do as far as seeing yourself reflected in ownership and those that are the managers on the field, and the general managers, that all plays an important role. But it was that little seed there that was planted as a kid was so important to me. And for me, that just made it, hey, I want to do this. I want to play the game, hopefully as long as I could. Just had a chance but that first impact of being there was something that was important to me. And, from that, having a chance to come to Maryland, it was something that for me, it was, my dad's actually a proud University of Maryland Eastern Shore alum. Okay. he tried to sell me a little bit on there, but decided to go there at College Park. And, for me, it was just amazing just being on the campus for the first time, really like seeing everything and experiencing it all. And once there, it was like, what, this is just an opportunity to continue to be in this whole melting pot that we have there on campus there in College Park. And for me, that was just something that just started that love of, hey, this is just a great atmosphere, great environment for anybody to be a part of. And was just glad to have an amazing experience there for 5 years on the campus. And a big part of Maryland athletics played a big role in that, actually, because I had a chance to be a photographer for both the Diamondback and the Terrapin Yearbook. And in addition to being an accounting and marketing double major in the Smith School of Business, it was nice to have this little diversion with having Maryland athletics and what I was doing, primarily covering athletics as a photographer, and getting a chance to cover football and basketball, pretty much every sport there in Maryland. So seeing, when I first got there, seeing Walt Williams and seeing him, his greatness, that who he was as a player there at Maryland before he went to the NBA, then later Joe Smith, and following the team on for the NCAA tournament in different places, but also just all the different components, whether it was lacrosse or soccer, field hockey, you name it, I covered it and had a chance to experience it all, and just see the tremendous athletes and that we were able to produce as a university. But first and foremost, them as who they were developed as people, and just having that opportunity was something that was pretty important to me, and something that I'll truly cherish.
No, I appreciate you sharing your story with us, at least part of the story that you decided to share today with us, given that, again, your experience at Maryland dates back to the early 90s. And so for those who are graduating in the 90s, then they may have recognized those names. For those who are currently in school or graduating in the 2010s, like myself, we had to do some more research, to go back and dig deep to see, who was elite, right, at Maryland, who was leading the way at Maryland before the current athletes we have competing today. But I want to take us back to 1991 and just think about, what was one of your favorite memories as an undergraduate student at College Park?
Actually, really one of my favorite memories truly of that time there was, it's actually just, I lived in several different dorms there on the whole time I was at Maryland. I was there for 5 years, and I lived in dorms each year. And we had I lived in Prince George's Hall during the course of my last year at Maryland. And but also even prior to that, we had 1 year where we had I lived in Somerset, which was a co-ed dorm, and that was just an amazing experience. Just having other guys, but also having women, and just how we were all able to interact and have fun together, and enjoy the time we had. But during the course of my time living in that building, in that dorm for 2 years, we actually had a huge snowstorm actually hit the campus. Actually, literally right when we were going through, it was Martin Luther King holiday weekend, and we were all getting back onto campus after from the holiday break, basically. Also, yep. And the funny thing was, the storm hit literally right before the first day of classes to start the second semester, and literally when that happened, it basically shut down everything, and we hadn't even gotten into seeing a syllabus for your classes or anything, so we really had free time, and literally. It just happened where it was like each day they were trying to take it day by day. Okay, the school's going to be closed today, and then this is like Tuesday, then it's going to be closed again on Wednesday. Then they just called off the whole entire week. It was just an amazing experience for everybody that was on campus, and because you had nothing, you had no assignments at that time to even do. So it was just something that we all just had a great time hanging around the campus and going from dorm to dorm, having fun. It was just an amazing, that for me was such a memorable time overall.
No, I'm laughing because if that happened, in 2021, there'd be a lot of students making TikTok videos. But I would assume I didn't have TikTok. Well, I know y'all didn't have TikTok or Twitter or Instagram. So I hope you were able to document some of those memories, back then. But I want to take us forward a little bit because you're involved with the Terrapin Yearbook. You were involved with the Diamondback, of course. Then after graduation, you found your way to the Atlanta Braves. Talk to us more about your experience, graduating and then starting your career as a baseball operations trainee and intern with the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, Tim, when it all really, when it started as an accounting and marketing double major, I initially was thinking about, going down the accounting route, and I added marketing as a second major just to give myself some flexibility because I really wasn't sure if I truly wanted to get into the accounting side. I was also doing my photography stuff there with the Diamondback and with the yearbook, and I was thinking about the possibility of maybe going professional to do that. But for me, it all came down to, you know what, I've got to do something in sports somehow. Like, I've got to make sure I do that. And as I was going through the fall of my last year, I was in the process. I was interviewing for different jobs, and a lot of them at that time were not really sports related. So then, during the course of Christmas break, going into my last semester, I happened to stumble upon a book called the Internship Bible. And the Internship Bible actually still is in existence. It's now in about its 10th edition. And when I saw it, it had information about different Fortune 500 companies, their internship programs, but they also had a small section on sports teams. And that's where I saw the Atlanta Braves had a program called the Career Initiative Program that was developed by Hank Aaron, the Hall of Famer, and who recently passed away not too long ago, earlier this year. Yep. And Stan Kasten, who was at the time the president of the Braves. He's now the president and CEO of the Dodgers. And when I saw this information that they had about this internship program, it was like all of a sudden, like the light switch came on, and realizing, okay, this is what I have to do. And I immediately applied. And the funny thing was, to try to make my application just kind of stand out, I actually sent some of my photographs with my resume and all the other documents that they wanted as part of it. Just several photos from some basketball, a little bit of baseball, some different things, just to kind of mix it in there. And so then I went through, they immediately got back to me, and I went through several phone interviews. And that was a funny year. That was 1996, the spring of that year. And because of the Olympics getting ready to be set up in Atlanta, they actually were not flying people down to Atlanta to do any interviews. So we did it all over the phone.
Wow.
And as I was going through having these couple of discussions, I remember vividly, the very first question they asked me was, tell me everything you know about the Atlanta Braves. Mm-hmm. And I was fully prepared. I was fully ready. They literally had to shut me up, because I knew, but actually it was a question that truly would help, that actually weed out some people if they hadn't done their research on the organization. But we went through several phone interviews. They offered me the opportunity to come aboard as a career initiative trainee in the baseball operations department, literally a month before graduation. And, I was like, wow, I can't believe I have this opportunity. And, at the time I thought truly I was going to probably stay close to home and have a chance to be home, save a little extra money, and hopefully find something. But here was an opportunity I had to jump for. And I remember also kind of in a sort of a little of a panic, trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to live, in Atlanta? I was like, who do I really know down there? Where am I going to stay? And fortunately, I had a cousin who still lives in Atlanta to this day, that he allowed me to come down and basically sleep on his couch just to get started. And remember, this was truly an internship at that time for $6 an hour. And I remember on graduation day, we're all lined up about to go into, at the time, Coalfield House, where the graduation was going to be held. And we're all lined up actually at Bird Stadium there at the time. And I hear everybody talking about, hey, I'm going in this job, that job, making this much money, that much money. And I'm like, well, thinking to myself, well, I'm only making $6 an hour, but I'm proud of this opportunity. I'm going to have a chance to get started. And graduation day happens. 2 days later, I'm on the road driving to Atlanta to get started with this opportunity. And funny quick story. On my very first day, this is before we had cell phones or our GPSs and everything. And I literally got lost trying to find Fulton County Stadium. I thought I had it mapped out on MapQuest or something beforehand. And I'm driving, and I literally got off one exit too soon. And I ended up over near Clark, Atlanta, and Morris Brown and Spelman and Morehouse over there in the AUC, and where all the colleges are all located, predominantly right there. And before you know it, I was just all turned around. And then I was over by the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I eventually found my way there. I was a little bit late that very first day, but nobody noticed. So thankfully, one of the other interns also came in at the same exact time. And I realized, I'm not the last person getting here. But thankfully, nobody figured it out. But it was just a chance to get started, just something that here was a chance from the ground up to learn fully how an organization operates from a baseball operations standpoint. Also, the general manager of the Atlanta Braves, who was there for many, many years, John Sherrills, the very first day we had a whole debate about who was better, Towson University or Maryland. So it was a whole running thing we had going on during the course of that very first day. But it was a chance to get started. And, one, coming into an organization that had already had a great track record in terms of history. And they had been in the World Series in 91 and 92, and then 95 winning it all. And then here I was in 1996 getting there, and just to be a part of just trying to fit into the cog of what the organization was, and trying to really do everything I could to try to, one, knowing I only had 3 months to prove myself. And that was a big thing. So I had to really look at, hey, what can I do now to have an impact immediately? What I could ask questions, what I can do to help and contribute in any way. And thankfully, a month and a half into the internship, kind of the right place, right time, a job open to be hired full time within the department. And that was the start of it, to get started. And one thing I tell anybody is you always need to have goals for yourself and start thinking about, what are things in the short term, what things in the long term that I really want to do. And, I told myself, and maybe I was a little naive at the time, but I told myself, hey, I want to be a general manager by the time I'm 37, which is going to be 15 years from that point. So for me, it was something that I needed for myself to just keep pushing myself, but also having these little short-term goals for myself as well. And, as I got closer and closer toward that in my career, toward that time period, I realized it was more about, am I doing something that I love to do? Do I feel valued by the individuals I work with? And also, am I doing something that is truly having an impact on what we're doing as an organization? And if I can keep continuing to grow and develop personally and then have an impact, hey, then I'm going to be fine as far as the opportunity. And just, realizing, hey, there's only 30 of those jobs out there. It's very difficult. I've been very fortunate later on to have a chance to interview twice to be a general manager, once with the Milwaukee Brewers back in 2015. And then the craziest thing was 2018, having a chance to interview with the Orioles, my hometown team that I grew up for. And to have a chance to go through that experience was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, it did not work out, but I learned a lot from each experience. And now, my story and what I've been able to do, I think a lot of it resonates with the people I get a chance to talk with now on a daily basis. And, I've gone through the different ranks of starting as an intern, making my way into it as an entry-level employee, and then developing into leadership roles, having a chance to be a scout. I was a scout for a number of years with Atlanta and Cleveland before going back into a front office with the Pirates for 6 years with them. And it's just something that, when you have a chance to have those different experiences, you have a chance to help spread wisdom and help individuals that are trying to make their way. And that's something that, for me, I've always been dedicated to helping individuals to make sure they know that, hey, I'm here to help and assist you. And, now I get a chance, because of the opportunity that was created by Hank for me, now I get a chance to have a bigger impact on what we're doing completely as a whole in Major League Baseball.
Yo, Tyrone, I'm gonna apologize in advance for the number of people that's gonna hit you up after this interview and just learn and just try to pick your brain and learn more about your story, because we can literally talk for hours about not just your time with the Braves, which expanded a decade, which is an extremely long time, but honestly, this journey towards a general manager, right, being a general manager in Major League Baseball. But thinking back to your time with Atlanta, and then of course with Cleveland and the Pirates, like what attracted you? Like what made you want to be a GM, right? Because you had mentioned representation in the field, seeing ourselves in ownership and management. But like, what about being a general manager attracted you?
I think it was just, for me, it was just, wanting to have that opportunity to try to build a team and also just have a chance to win. For me, it was something that I saw. One, I was around greatness when I was with Atlanta, and the individuals I had a chance to work with on a daily basis, in and out. So it was something that, hey, it made me want to dream for myself. And, it's something unfortunately hasn't come true, but I know definitely I'm in the midst of helping others who are going to also have that chance potentially down the road. But for me, it was something that I thought, if I can, and I had some really good mentors along the way. And that's something that I would definitely encourage anyone and stress for anyone, is to try to find good people that really want to be a part of your own existence within the work environment. They want to see you do well. And I had some really good mentors early on in my career that really helped propel me along the way. In some situations, one person I met with, it was very early in my career. He had been with the Braves and had went to another team, but he sat down with me when he came back in town for a series in Atlanta. And he was telling me at that time, if you can understand how the rules of the game fully operate, in terms of the contract side, the operational aspects of it, in addition to being able to identify and evaluate a player, that was tremendous. You'll always be in demand in the game. And it made me really look at, what can I do to keep developing myself along the way? And I think for anybody that's making their way in, you need to look at, hey, what about my existing skills that I do have and the talents I have? What can I do? What areas do I need to maybe possibly strengthen further? And that's where taking that perspective, understanding what things am I good at, what things are maybe a little bit lesser strength that I can continue to develop. And then from there, putting yourself on that pathway. But also, you got to realize you can't do this by yourself. You're not going to be, and that's where there's a lot of other people that are willing to be a part of this journey with you. But it's something that you have to make it a point to be proactive, to reach out, talk to people, stay connected. And that's where you'll also realize, like sports in almost any industry, networking is so huge. So you have to continue to keep networking. And it's something that you've got to make sure it's genuine and authentic in terms of how you go about doing this. But it's something that, for me, I learned a lot of that, especially early on in my career. And that's where I'm thankful for that. But I'm also thankful for even my time being at Maryland. It really helped me to really grow out of my own little personal shell. And so that exposure to so many different people from all over the country, from all different walks of life, helped me to put myself on this pathway.
Yeah, most definitely. And we'll get to your current role in just a second. But one of the common themes so far in our conversation has been about mentorship. It's been about connection. It's been about exposure and opportunity. You created a network, the Baseball Industry Network, in 2009 to help grow the game, to help connect people, to help facilitate organic mentorship. And the group now holds over 34,000 members on LinkedIn. I'm sure the numbers continue to grow. So talk to us more about, why you created the network and what was your initial purpose when doing so?
Yeah, Tim, when I look at the Baseball Industry Network, it was really about, I was living in San Francisco, which is always a big incubator for, different ideas and thoughts. Yeah. And I just happened to be, at the time, I just started to get on to LinkedIn as a tool and utilizing it. And I happened to notice there was, a lot of baseball people on there, but they were all just kind of scattered throughout. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of smaller groups that have been created, but I felt like, what? I know I can do it better. And so I came about the thought, I want to help bring people together that are already in the baseball community. But then I also wanted to make sure that we didn't lose sight of what about individuals that are trying to also follow maybe in my pathway or make their way in. And that, for me, that was a big part. I wanted to make sure that was a huge element. And with that was just understanding that, what can I do to try to help somebody get maybe one step closer to where they want to go, and making that a vital element of it. But also realizing, hey, here's a chance for us to connect, virtually on, say, a platform like LinkedIn, but also now let's have a chance to maybe further engage in person when we can. And that's where I started creating different events during the course of that time, whether during the course of the baseball winter meetings or other areas, but also right around that time as well, it allowed me to re-engage with Maryland and the Smith School of Business, actually. And it gave me a chance to also bring together folks that are in the DC, Baltimore area, different sports industries within baseball, whether the Bowie Bay Sox or the Washington Nationals or the Orioles. And that was something that I was able to do, thankfully, through working with individuals at the Smith School. Actually, one of my former advisors I had during the course of my time there in Maryland. Brian Hort, who's now one of the assistant deans in the Smith School. He's still there at Maryland. And, we've stayed in touch over the years. And when I reached out to him, they were fully on board with the idea and embraced me coming back. And it kind of gets back into the alumni engagement element of it, and getting a chance to bring students together with the chance to, hey, here's a chance to connect with people that are interested in you, that want to see you do well, and also want to help provide some education for you to let you know what pathway is available to you, and also give you some areas on what steps you need to take to put yourself in a position to get into it.
Wow. And so what's been the most surprising thing about the network over the last now 12 years that you've either found or experienced?
The amazing thing is just seeing all the people that have been able to, one, continue to grow and get into the industry and get jobs in different areas, but also being willing to also give back and share with others, share their story, but also willing to pull somebody with them along the way on that journey.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. And so I want to take us to current day, at least present day, where you currently serve as a senior director for front office and field staff diversity pipeline program. Now, I want to set us up by talking a lot about like the pipeline, right? I think there's been a lot of conversation, not just, of course, in Major League Baseball, but the NFL, NBA a little bit, but honestly, college athletics as well, right? Like, what is the pipeline? How does someone know they're in the pipeline? But you have pipeline program in your official title. So talk to us more about how did you even get into this role? Like, who identified this to be a need? Like, how did Major League Baseball, fund this? But also, like, what are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so it initially started when it wasn't on my radar originally. It was something where I had actually gone about. I just interviewed for the Milwaukee Brewers GM job, and I unfortunately didn't get it. But the owner of the Brewers, Mark Antanasio, actually talked to the Commissioner Rob Manfred. Yep. And from there, Commissioner Manfred was already in the midst of trying to put together the diversity pipeline program. And once I sort of Antanasio talking to Commissioner Manfred, it all of a sudden came about to me. They reached out to me as a whole about being a part of, we have technically a board of different executives and some managers that are also part of kind of helping guide the program. So they reached out to me about doing that. But the funny thing was, as I started to learn further, as we were getting ready to start having our first meetings, I realized they also were looking for somebody to run the program on a day-to-day basis. And when I saw that, it was something that, I was like, hey, this is something that I've got to put myself in the mix for this. And it was something that, personally, Hank Aaron opened the door for me. What can I do to help hopefully open up doors for others throughout the whole entire league? And, for me, I was thinking about, what I truly want my legacy to be. Hey, what was I doing to help others? I was already informally doing it through the Baseball Industry Network and the work that we've done there. And they recognized it also. And it was something that here was a chance to start something from scratch and build out this program. And, thanks to many different people, Commissioner Manfred, Dan Halem, who's our deputy commissioner, Paul Mifsud, somebody I work with as well, who's one of our VPs within our organization as well. It was something that it was a chance to truly try to build something out completely, from an organic standpoint, and look at, what areas, these different points of entry, that understanding those different elements, whether internships, part-time positions, and then obviously full-time roles, looking at all those different elements, but also looking at how we can engage and help the league as a whole. There are 30 clubs, helping them find talent, helping them identify talent, but also looking at how can we create more opportunity. An opportunity was created by the Braves to allow me to get in the door. Sure. How can we work closely with our teams to make sure we're creating more opportunity? And as part of that, in the program so far, we've been this is the start of year 6 for me within the commissioner's office. And we've been involved in assisting in over 250 plus hires through the program. And, with that, it's just really us working together as a whole, helping to do this together, truly. Part of that, we created what's called the Diversity Fellowship Program. And this is something that, we really, when we came in and we looked at each club and looked at the league as a whole, we realized we had to be really intentional and very purposeful in creating this program to get somebody fully embedded within the front office, because it sometimes can be a little bit difficult in terms of creating an opportunity where somebody can get that chance to be working closely with the GM, assistant GMs, director of baseball operations. So we had to be purposeful in doing that. And with that, it's basically, we created an opportunity that is at least 18 months, as far as giving you a really extensive time period to work closely for somebody that can transition right out of college, right into this program. And also those that are also within recent several years of graduation, giving you a chance to develop skills, network, be fully embedded there, have a chance to make an impact, but also knowing you have a cohort of others that are also there with you, that are in it together as well. And we're now in our second class of the program right now. The very first class, which we knew was going to be something that was going to be key, was that first class did extremely well. We had 22 fellows in the very first class that was selected back in 2018. 22 fellows, 17 of those got hired in full-time roles beyond the scope of the fellowship. And that was just huge for them. And just they've done a wonderful job, and they're continuing to advance and develop with their teams. And then now we have a second class right now that is in the midst, where now we have 18 fellows from that group right now that are making their way. And then as we get ready for the fall of 21, and let all of you know, be ready. We're going to be ready for a next class. So I definitely want to let everyone within the Maryland community and throughout the world and throughout the industry and throughout the schools and universities that in the fall of 21, we'll be starting our next cycle to hire the next group of fellows that will have a chance to have an impact, both at our league office and also within the 30 clubs. So something to keep in mind coming up. But it's something that is truly, the one great thing also is seeing individuals from, say, HBCUs get a chance to get opportunities as well. Seeing a lot of women that are very talented. Definitely, data and analytics has become a bigger and bigger part of our game. And there's a lot of talented women that have been able to come in also through this program. We currently have, in our current class, we have half our class are actually women, which is really, really tremendous. And to see so many talented individuals that are coming in that are very technically proficient, in addition to having field and understanding for the game of baseball, which is really, really exciting. And we're just glad to keep pushing this forward, and definitely wanting to make sure that persons of color and women know, hey, there's a place for you in our game.
That's awesome. And I'll be sure to link the Diversity Fellowship Program in the descriptions of this podcast for people to learn more about that program. But as I mentioned when we first started, right, we focusing and want to center conversation on alumni engagement. You mentioned it several times throughout our conversation today about how you continue to reach back into the Smith School, invest back into the Maryland community, which is more than just the physical campus. And so, what does being an engaged alumni mean to you, especially given your role now at Major League Baseball?
Yeah, it's funny. It's taken on a lot of different roles over the years. And, it's funny. Within the Smith School that I've done a lot of work with over the years, there's some of the different mentorship opportunities that's have been able to take place. Actually, it's funny, former NFL player Josh Wilson, who played there in Maryland, he was actually one of my mentees years ago that I had a chance to spend time with and talk, and a bunch of others that have all had a chance to engage over the years. But the events I was doing with the Baseball Industry Network that we would do at Maryland, pretty much what we did on an annual basis from about 2010 to 2015 was a really, really exciting. But then also, even during the course of now, with what we went through with the pandemic, and then even through the present day, I've had a chance, even just in the last several months, to really engage further within the Smith School. And thanks to the Dean Mullins there within the business school. But also it's given me a chance I've gotten back in the classroom on several different occasions. It's been really exciting just to talk to students and just hear how much they're passionate about getting into the industry, but also just the lessons that can be truly transferred to individuals, so you can kind of understand what mistakes I've made or what good decisions I've made along the way. But something that I've really tried to embrace with these opportunities, and being able to tell a bit about my story, but also hearing about what they're passionate about and how I can direct them, and also looking at the different ways that we can be a resource as far as, looking at your resume, and trying to help connect with other people that are in the industry and continue to build that mentorship aspect of it has been something that's been very relevant and I thought very helpful. And I'm looking forward to even coming up in the fall to have more opportunities to engage in whether it's virtual or in person. For me, I'm only a 3-hour drive away. I'm based in Pittsburgh primarily, so it's just something that literally I can get back there within a 3 to 4 hour range easily. But also just now with so much being available virtually now via Zoom and other resources, it makes it that much easier for us to continually engage. And it's just a great chance for us to do that and have an even bigger impact for student athletes and just students in general.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're definitely going to continue to engage with you and bring you back as we're starting a sport management terp student organization. And so this is a student athlete driven organization that's helping students, that want to work in sports, matriculate into the collegiate or professional athletic settings. And so we'll definitely be bringing you back for programming, but also mentorship of our current student athletes, because there's many that want to learn both from you and with you as well. But as we close today, I just have a couple quick questions that I want to make sure we get answered for people who may be listening. So first and foremost, again, you work for Major League Baseball. You've been a scout. You traveled across the country. But what's your favorite Major League Baseball stadium?
Ooh, good question.
And why? Why?
Yeah. Now, for me, definitely, PNC Park in Pittsburgh is truly, really been one of my favorites. And once I got started working for the Pirates, just being there, seeing the view right there on the water. In addition to San Francisco, there at Oracle Park, that also was one of my favorites. Those two are really my two favorites. And just the location, where they're located, how they fit in within the fabric of the community, within the business districts there in both San Francisco and Pittsburgh, is something that really resonates with me. And that's the biggest part, when you can put a ballpark in a spot where the community is going to be right there around it. Nothing against when I was in Atlanta originally, but there was not a lot really built around it. And obviously now they've learned from that and have now done a great job with Truist Park now, that's now outskirts of Atlanta in front of the city, but they've done a lot of building, a lot of commercial development and other retail built around it, which makes it a really great opportunity. And that's where that's kind of now the model for most teams now. They're looking for ways to do that. And we look at what's currently being put together with the Oakland A's and the work they're trying to do to try to build a stadium out there. They're trying to make sure that's kind of still part of it, where the fabric of that community, but also they're actually in the midst of trying to make sure that all the land that's right there where the old stadium is presently, how that can also be used and part of our revitalization of that community. So, just how you can continue to step that up is the biggest thing, and how it can be part of the fabric of the community, but also drive business along the way is so important.
Awesome. So baseball is obviously, of course, a sport filled with many superstitions. So do you have any superstitions that you subscribe to?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just back in the day when I was playing baseball, and I had a chance to play baseball through my Legion years and through high school, and had a chance to play some smaller colleges. But for me, I was always someone that I never tried to step on the white lines. I always tried to jump over. It was just my thing. But also, even when it was funny, even in my high school football days, I had my own little ritual. And for me, it was always to stop at a 7-Eleven, and I would get a chili cheese dog. That was always like my thing, like my pregame thing I kind of needed. But that for me, that was just something I kind of had my own little pattern for that. But other than that, it was just those type of things I needed for myself, and that was kind of my way to just stay on balance for whatever thing I was trying to face at that time. But nothing really too much in terms of superstitions now at this point. But it's just but definitely I think everybody has their own little ritual that they have, and you probably yourself had when you were training as an athlete, everything as well.
So yeah, same song playlist, only writing in blue ink, just two of mine that I still stick to today. Who's your favorite player, either current or former?
Yeah, I mean, still, I mean, to this day, as I tried to mention earlier, I mean, Eddie Murray is still my favorite player of all time. And, having a chance to grow up and see him as a kid in Baltimore, and then also following his career, even after he was traded from the Orioles, when he went to the Dodgers, when he went to the Mets. Funny thing also, in 1995, a year prior to me joining the Braves and the Indians played each other in the World Series. Eddie was playing for the Indians during that time. So I was fully rooting for the Indians that year in 1995 when Atlanta ended up winning the World Series against them. And then it was funny, then the following year, there I am working for the Braves at that time. So it was pretty funny that with that situation. The funny thing is I've met so many people that I've looked up to as a kid, throughout my whole, and then as a career now, that I've had a chance to interact with them in so many different situations, whether it's, a Dave Winfield or just so many different people throughout, Derek Jeter, and I've had a chance to connect with working in now in the same industry. But the one person I still have not met is Eddie Murray. And it's amazing that it's never happened over the course of, now being in my 26th year working in baseball. And a good friend of mine was the PR director with the Orioles, and she actually used to, Kristen Hudak is her name, and she actually used to alert me whenever he was going to be coming to Baltimore for different events, just in case maybe I could make it happen. But I just never had a chance to do it. I know to this day, at some point when it does happen, I'm going to probably end up crying right in front of him, just sitting there in tears. I'm actually on the board of directors for which is SABR, which is Society for American Baseball Research, and the next physical conference that we have for it will be in Baltimore. Awesome. So they've already said, hey, we're going to make sure we make it happen by at that time, if it doesn't happen before then. So hopefully by the summer of 22, I should have a chance to hopefully meet him at that point. But it's just something that's amazing. I had a chance one year, maybe around 1998 or 99, that I thought there was a chance to meet him when he was at the time was coaching for the Dodgers. And my boss at the time, John Schultz, was actually setting it all up. But then it turned out I had to go to an off-site meeting that same day, which ended up screwing it all up. So, but at some point it'll hopefully happen. But I also want to give a big shout out to a good friend of mine there in the Maryland community, there in the Maryland Athletics, Matt Swope, one of the baseball coaches there at Maryland. He's very actively involved in the recruiting side there. And, he's been somebody has been a great person to have to stay in touch with over the years. Matt, along with a former alum who played baseball at Maryland, Ken Noe, the two of them helped me kind of engage and get back with a lot of stuff with the baseball program and do some different things. And then when I was at the Pirates, we actually worked closely with Maryland baseball a few times to actually put like a auction item as an experience at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. As a great way to have somebody have a chance. And then they were able to raise money during the course of it, which was really exceptional. And but just had to give a shout out to Matt Swope and also Ken Noe, because the two of them really helped me, along with having a chance to get connected with Eric Bakich when he was the head coach there with the baseball program as well. So it was something that it was great just to be connected with them. And also Bernie Walter, who unfortunately passed away not too long ago. Bernie was the director of baseball operations there in Maryland for a number of years. He was actually high school coach in Anne Arundel County, where I grew up, at Arundel High School for many, many years, and actually one of the winningest high school coaches in this whole state of Maryland. And it was funny having him there at Maryland when he was there during that time, and to engage with him as well. He actually, back in the day when I was in high school, he actually pulled a shift on me back. Now everybody's shifting all over the place, but at that time he actually put a shift on me when I was playing in high school at that time. And then I was as a left-handed hitter, he had everybody off toward the right side, the infield and toward their outfield, shifting a little bit, and I ended up blooping some ball to the left field line against him. But no, just to have a chance to be connected with some of those different individuals that have been part of the Maryland community and are still there now has been just tremendous.
That's awesome. And then last question for you. You're doing a lot to support Maryland athletics and the Maryland community, but how can we as Maryland made in the Maryland community best support you?
No, definitely. As far as, you have access to a great group of student athletes that are there within the Maryland community and there within the school. So continue to keep them on my radar. That's the biggest thing. If we can try to help engage them in any way possible to make sure they are aware of different opportunities that do exist, both within baseball and for something else, even external that we can help with that's outside of that. So whatever you can do to kind of keep that connection, that line of connection, that's the biggest thing. And I want to do my part to help. The biggest thing is I want individuals to find something that they're passionate about and then go down that pathway and just be successful at it. And any way that we can do that and help shape that, we'd love to do that.
We appreciate that. And I most definitely will keep you in the loop and keep you engaged with our programming as well. But with that, Tyrone, again, I want to say thank you for your time. I thank you for your presence, your leadership, your representation, honestly. It's amazing what you're doing with Major League Baseball, but honestly within the sport industry as a whole. And we look forward to continue engaging with you, not just on our podcast. We definitely need to do a part 2, but with in-person programming as well as we continue to transition back to the Maryland campus.
No, thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it. And, I definitely just want individuals to know, hey, the biggest thing is there's a place for you. And, we want to make sure you have individuals are aware of the opportunities that do exist within Major League Baseball and having that sense of belonging that, hey, this is where you want to be. And we want to be there to help you and follow you and help you in this journey along the way.
Awesome, Tyrone. So with that, thank y'all again for tuning in to episode 5 of the Maryland Made podcast. I look forward to seeing y'all in a couple of weeks for episode 6.